You like dragons? Imagine dragging these nuts across your forehead.
Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Y'all suck. Clarissa Shields rips the MVPW fighters. Clarissa Shields says there's no competition for her at MVPW.
You know what? Maybe there isn't, but that's not exactly a good thing for her, because if they don't have anybody for her to fight, and they have the biggest stable of women boxers, what is Clarissa gonna do? Who is she gonna fight?
Immediately following Alicia Baumgartner's win last weekend, Clarissa Shields took to social media to make it clear that no one on the MVPW roster poses any threat to her. While being critical of what Baumgartner put on display in particular, "I've been dominant for 20 years, Shields said. "A girl ain't never gave me a run for my money, though."
Didn't Savannah beat her in the amateurs?
Not even close, but what I'm going to say is this. You MVP bitches keep Clarissa Shields' name out of your motherfucking mouth. All of y'all suck. It's levels to this shit, and I'm on level 100. Y'all motherfuckers are on level 10. Real shit. Y'all cannot do nothing with me. 0. Are y'all okay? And then little Miss Alicia, you look like a motherfucking amateur, my girl. You look like an amateur tonight, and you do all this shit talking, but what can you do with me? What can you do with Carolyn? That girl had you running tonight. As soon as you got tired and got touched up, you got on your wheels. Quit saying my name, quit hating on me to make yourself look better, because when you get in the ring and you fight, you don't look better. When you want to be on my level, you need to work a little bit harder. You, yes you, Alicia. You, Jadeja.
Jadeja, who suffered a brain bleed. I wonder if Clarissa made these statements knowing the condition of Jadeja Green after that fight.
You motherfuckers can't fuck with me in this boxing shit. And maybe she can't. The old saying goes that it's lonely at the top. It's even lonelier when you campaign in barren weight classes where there's nobody to fight. Now, you can evaluate Alicia's performance because you two have minced words in the past.
They're not friends and they don't like each other, so you can trash her if you want to. You can trash Jadeja Green too, but with Jadeja, that's one less person for you to fight. That's one less opportunity for you to get out there and make money, because nobody's asking for a Lonnie Daniels rematch. Like, nobody was asking for a Franchon Cruz rematch.
It's not a good thing that that's one less fight on the table for you. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano jointly are very close to retiring, and those two represent the highest paid women boxers in the history of the sport. They both jointly got $9 million apiece from Netflix for what was their trilogy.
Clarissa doesn't get money like that. When they're both gone, that money goes with them.
When they're both gone, you could argue that Clarissa is the best in show in women's boxing, the most dominant fighter, but still not the biggest draw.
Generally speaking, not relatively speaking.
She did good numbers for her last fight with Franchon Cruz. What was their rematch? I think an estimated 18,000 people showed up to see that rematch. But without anybody to fight, how is she supposed to keep doing that? How is she supposed to ascend to becoming the face of women's boxing?
How is she supposed to carry the torch? Put the sport on her back with no opponents.
Serious troubles lie ahead, because Clarissa Shields claims that per her new contract, she's making about $2 million per fight.
Let's say that's true.
Well, I don't expect MVP to kick out that kind of money to use Clarissa Shields. For who? For Raquel Miller, who labored and languished with Adriana Araujo.
MVP ain't gonna kick that out to see Raquel Miller get beat, because that's what would happen. And Raquel, I don't think Raquel's gonna accept peanuts on the dollar to fight Clarissa, who doesn't hold any belts at super middleweight anyway.
That's one less fight for Clarissa. Clarissa actually made an offer to Raquel Miller years ago, back when Clarissa was on Showtime, and Raquel didn't accept peanuts then. I don't think she's going to accept peanuts now, so that's one less fight for Clarissa Shields.
No Jadeja Green, no Raquel Miller, I think. And she's never been interested in running it back with Savannah Marshall.
Funny how that works, that she was willing to give Hannah Gabriels a rematch, and she was willing to give Franchon Cruz a rematch, but not Savannah Marshall, who gave her a better fight than both.
And for more money. The one rematch people actually did want to see was the one she was never interested in. She's not interested now, so that's another fight she can't have.
3 years on from their initial meeting in the paid ranks, any interest in that rematch has since cooled, so that's not an option now either.
These hyperbolic statements from Clarissa Shields aren't the flex that she's making it out to be. If MVP, that hosts the biggest stable of women boxers, has nobody for you to fight, What are you gonna do? Who are you gonna fight?
Who even cares? You'd be hard-pressed to find a content creator, another one, who's supported the women as long as I have, but I gotta be honest that I don't care about Clarissa Shields' boxing career anymore. There's no fight that she can have that I'm interested in. I would prefer to see her go, take a hiatus from the sport, do something else, and come back in a year, 2 years. Let those divisions repopulate so that you have somebody to fight. Right now, there's nothing for her to do.
I'm sick of hearing her talk.
Men's super bantamweight news ahead of the mega match next weekend. Naoya Inoue is in preliminary talks to face massive U.S. star after the Junto Nakatanyi fight. It may not come next, but Eddie Hearn insists. Naoya Inoue versus Jesse Bam Rodriguez is inevitable. Inoue is currently gearing up to defend his undisputed super bantamweight crown against Junto Nakatanyi in the biggest fight in Japanese boxing history on May 2nd at the Tokyo Dome.
That's next Saturday morning.
I was worried the whole time that DAZN might try to bill that fight as a pay-per-view, because they billed Inoue's last fight as a pay-per-view with Picasso, goddamn tune-up fight.
Build that thing as a pay-per-view.
But I guess that because this fight with Junto doesn't actually involve Turki El Al-Sheikh or Sella, he's not the one putting it together, that's why it's not a pay-per-view, and we're getting it as part of our regular subscription. No additional charge. Music to my ears.
Music to yours, too, because we don't normally have to pay extra to see Inoue fight. When he fought Stephen Fulton, when he fought Marlon Tapales, Luis Neri, we never had to pay extra to see him in the biggest fights of his career, and we don't want to start that shit now.
The monster cannot afford to look past three-weight world champion Junto Nakatanyi and naturally has tunnel vision ahead of fight night. However, the powers that be are already plotting a mega fight between Inoue and super flyweight king Bam Rodriguez in the not-so-distant future. Like Inoue, Rodriguez already has a bout booked. He faces Antonio Vargas on June 13th at the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona for a WBA bantamweight title. It's not the full one.
It's the regular.
The full WBA champion at bantamweight is not Antonio Vargas, it's Japan's own Seiya Tsutsumi. Just a side note. Thus, Bam's fight with Antonio will not really make him a three-weight world champion, but it does mark Rodriguez's first fight at 118 after unifying 3 of the 4 major world titles at 115, providing he comes out of the contest unscathed. The 26-year-old's promoter, Eddie Hearn, has confirmed that talks have been held with Saudi power broker Turki El Al-Sheikh about financing a fight with Inoue.
Don't you think they're moving a little bit too fast? This guy's yet to make his bantamweight debut, and they already want him to move up to super bantam?
There have been some early preliminary discussions with His Excellency Turki El Al-Sheikh about Inoue against Bam, Hearn said. I do think that fight is inevitable. I don't think it's going to be necessarily straight after the Vargas fight, but it could be as quick as in the next 2 or 3 fights. It's probably one of the biggest fights in boxing. It's one that Bam likes the idea of.
Yeah, and a lot of people like the idea of that fight too, but we've yet to see what Bam looks like at 118, and whether or not he'll be able to stay in character there. That matters a great deal, because up until this point, Junto looked like a monster. Junto looked like the greatest threat to Inoue up until he fought Sebastian Hernandez.
Up until he made his super bantamweight debut, suddenly, more and more people started leaning towards Inoue to do him. Same thing could happen to Bam if he looks human anywhere in between the time that he makes his bantamweight debut and his super bantamweight debut. Calls for a fight between Inoue and Bam have grown louder as the gap in weight continues to close, and it appears that Rodriguez's team are all on the same page. Bam's head trainer, Robert Garcia, recently told Boxing Scene, "It's a fight that definitely needs to happen and will happen. We've had conversations about it. The fight will happen after this year. When the right time comes, I know Bam will jump on it."
Bam does have time on his side. He's the younger fighter in the fight. He's in his mid-20s, whereas Inoue is in his early 30s. You figure that if it takes more than a year or 2 for the fight to happen, a great deal could happen in the interim. Bam could start looking human, or Inoue could start looking old.
Start slowing down. And is this proposed fight with Bam enough to keep Inoue in the super bantamweight division? Because in the background, there have also been talks about Inoue potentially moving up to featherweight.
Moving up to 126? Why do you think all those guys up there don't want to fight each other? The champions don't want to unify. Nobody wants to do nothing because they're all waiting for Inoue to move up.
So now that talks about a BAM fight are gaining momentum, will that be enough to keep Inoue in the super bantamweight division, forcing those featherweights to do something with themselves?
I hope so.
What's Inoue's stance on the Bam Rodriguez fight? Inoue has also welcomed that fight publicly, saying when he's ready, we can fight at super bantam, and if the timing is perfect for each other, I would love for him to wait to challenge me.
A fight with Bam would represent a bigger marquee fight than any fight with any featherweight champion. You heard that right, because that's the fight that Turkey's working to make. You see?
That's the fight he's willing to throw millions of dollars from the Saudi PIF fund at.
Not a Carrington fight, not a Figueroa fight, not an Espinoza fight, not an Angelo Leo fight. None of those guys at featherweight.
And they are all good fighters, by the way. Every single one, but not a single one of them is a big draw. Not a one. Not Brandon, not Bruce, not Rafael, not Angelo.
Not none of them. But is Bam a big draw?
He doesn't have to be, because he's a guy Turkey wants Inoue to fight. And since he's a guy Turkey wants Inoue to fight, he'll throw a lot of money at it. That's what sets him apart, and that's what might keep Inoue in the super bantamweight division, where he may elect to satisfy his mandatory challengers in the alphabet's rotation while he waits for Bam to build himself up and move to 122.
That's literally what he just did with Junto. In the buildup of what became the Junto-Nakatani fight, he was fighting his mandatories.
Of which he's no shortage of, since he's undisputed champion. He's got all the marbles, so he's got all the mandatories. And he may do that for the next year and a half, 2 years, waiting for Bam to move up.
But in doing so, is he not doing with Bam what the featherweight champions have been trying to do with him? And wouldn't that leave Inoue subject to criticism?
Not to me, not to Ring IQ, because Inoue has earned the right to do that a lot more than they have. Those guys at featherweight aren't four-weight, two-time undisputed champions. Not a single one of them have ever won all the belts from all the champions in their prescribed weights. So if Inoue now wants to take his time and pick and choose, I think he's earned the right to do that a lot more than they have. They need to unify with each other.
If they don't like it, tough titty bitch, because not a single one of them has been up to much since becoming world champions.
The Bam versus Inoue fight is a fascinating clash of styles that almost isn't worth talking about here and now because of the amount of time it'll take to put it together. We don't know how either fighter's gonna be looking a year, maybe 2 years from now.
We don't.
Though on the face of it, it would pit Bam Rodriguez's volume punching and footwork, cutting angles, against Inoue's precision punching, power, and speed.
Now, both fighters have hit the deck before. Both fighters have been knocked down. Bam was knocked down by an aged Gallo Estrada, where Inoue was knocked down by both Luis Neri and Ramon Cardenas.
How much more susceptible will they be to knockdowns as Bam Rodriguez moves up in weight and fights bigger fighters and more time passes and Inoue gets older? They could both start looking human within the next 12 months.
Junto did.
The guy that Junto Nakatani just fought, Sebastian Hernandez, how do you think Bam would have looked against that same fighter?
You gotta wonder.
For Bam Rodriguez, this would definitely be a passing of the baton fight, a passing of the torch fight, if he could win it. The guys at the lighter weights, many of the champions, are not all that talked about, if you notice. If you asked the average American boxing fan walking around who's got all the belts at 118,
and who's the only other belt holder at 115, they couldn't tell you. There are only a few recognizable fighters at those weights that they acknowledge. Guys like Bam and guys like Inoue. So it definitely would be a passing of the torch fight and a fight that both the East and the West pay attention to.
Bear in mind that Bam is already a very, very accomplished fighter, all without having fought Inoue. But this is the fight that would launch him into the next stratosphere if he could win it. It's a tall ask.
But that's what it presents for him.
For Inoue, it's just another day at the office, another chance to take a good fighter and make him look like a not-so-good fighter, like what he did to MJ Akhmadaliev.
There's not that much in it for now. Yeah, Inoue saved the ginormous purse Turkey wants to give him for the fight. So we'll see what happens.
In men's middleweight news, Former Unified Champion Janibek took to his social media earlier today and said, "See you soon. I'm coming to collect every belt in the middleweight division. Huge thanks to all the fans who believe in me. Special respect to the World Boxing Organization, the WBO, who Janibek recently filed an appeal with to get a reduced or lifted suspension so that he doesn't have to wait until December to return, in effect, missing out most of this year on the premise that he tested positive for the banned substance meldonium."
It's the same one that Alexander Povetkin tested positive for ahead of what was supposed to be the Deontay Wilder fight. All these years later, it seems that Janibek ingested the same substance with good reason, at least on paper.
He's definitely celebrating something, so is it possible that the WBO have either reduced or completely lifted his suspension? I believe that the answers will come shortly. At the risk of speaking on the matter prematurely, he's definitely happy about something.
Maybe he got what he wanted. The IBF took a more straightforward approach and completely stripped him of the red and gold title. No amnesty, no grace period, where the WBO was a bit more understanding, and I don't find it dubious, because based on the burden of proof,
the standard which is set for a fighter to exonerate himself of culpability in this situation, Janibek would have met that criterion. He has all the corroborating evidence that shows what was in his system came from a prescription drug, and he might not have known that it was meldonium because in his country it goes by another name.
All of which is substantiated by that nation's medical database, which is more of an explanation than we usually get in these situations. We still don't know where the banned substance Conor ingested came from, or Ryan, or any of these other boxers, whereas with Janibek, we do have more of an answer.
That doesn't even really mean that I believe his story, but his story is corroborated by evidence, and thus, based on that burden of proof, he would have proven that he did not intentionally take a banned substance to gain a competitive edge. To the best of his ability, he's shown you where it came from, how it happened, so what more can you ask for on that premise? If the WBO so decided to either reduce or completely lift his suspension, I wouldn't call that dubious. I wouldn't call that corrupt.
I would say that he's proven to the best of his ability he is not at fault, and so he might soon be able to resume attempting to unify a division that nobody cares about.
Top Rank are the ones who reposted Janibek Alimkhanalai's tweet, which gives me the impression they may still be in the business of promoting that fighter, so his fights now might be shown on a DAZN platform with the rest of Top Rank's content.
And he still wants to unify. Carlos Adames is set to leave this division and move up to 168, so he's gonna drop the green and gold title very soon, making Janibek and Erislandy Lara the only two reigning champions at this weight.
Until such a time as the IBF decides to crown another. Could they reschedule the fight between them? It wouldn't be the first time that happened. That one fighter popped hot, got a fight postponed, and it ended up getting rescheduled. That's basically Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr.
That's what happened with them. What could happen with Erislandy Lara, who doesn't have that much to do and not much in terms of marquee fights. At his age, he's got to get while the getting is good. Janibek still is the biggest fight for him.
So there you have it. It would seem that Janibek Alimkhanalai, based on this, might return to action sooner than expected, and he's happy about it. He's not hiding it.